Hey everybody, what's up? It's me, Sarah G with the Smack, and I am back. And today I
Mm.
have Stacy McKinnon of Morton Capital. Hello, Stacy.
Hello.
We're talking today because I've been noticing over the last few years that Morton Capital has a different way of doing certain things. And I admire that because in an industry where there isn't a lot of innovation, I applaud you for taking risks. And I want to hear about the ones that have worked out. Maybe even the ones that didn't work out would be useful. But
Uh-huh.
the first thing I wanted to start with, Stacey, was one of the things I've heard is that you have a very different kind of hiring process. It's a
Mhm.
constant source of anxiety for financial advisors about how do I find talent, talent, talent. And so tell me about how you do that at Morton.
Well, I think that it starts with the ethos of who the leadership team is at Morton. Most of the team did not get their degree in finance. So our CEO was going into the medical field. Our CIO was is an English major and she was going into writing. I did wedding planning and events for a long time before I joined Morton. Our director of human capital and the person that does our recruiting was actually my manager at Pete's Coffee when I had just graduated college. And I just loved working for him so much that I went to him one day and said, "Will you come be a manager at our company? Because at the end of the day, I can teach you the business, but I can't, it's harder to teach people how to like take care of people." Does that make sense? And I knew directly from working with him that he takes good care of people. And so we just have always, as a company, had this ethos of not like um, overvaluing degrees and credentials over the people who can do the job right. And if you think about the best financial advisor in your business, like if somebody listening to the podcast is like, who's my best financial advisor? And what are the three words that I would use to describe that person? You would probably describe them as caring. You would probably describe them as determined. And sometimes determination is a determination to know all of the things, all of the planning and advice strategies that you can put into a client's portfolio, or maybe determination to grow and develop in the business. You would probably also describe that person as someone who deeply is intuitive to the needs of clients and colleagues. And so when we think about these few descriptions that I just kind of came up with off the top of my head, I didn't say the person with the most credentials behind their name. And I didn't say the person who's like achieved the top education at the top schools. Oftentimes, I think the value we bring to the clients is in the way that we make them feel, either about our expertise or about their lives and their objectives and goals being met. It's not always about like the number of things that we know. And so, from a hiring practice, we value like experience and the other skills that sometimes get overlooked equally. And I think that's really helped us to develop a good culture and a good team that just like cares to be better every day, cares to be excellent, cares to improve our clients' lives and improve the lives of their colleagues. And I think that that's really the foundation by which Morton's built.
Yeah, a few things on that. I totally wholeheartedly agree that the attitude is more important, I think, than
Yeah.
the skills or the experience. Totally. Most of the things can be taught. Like it's not like
Yeah.
it is not like you're hiring surgeons.
Mhm.
Most of if someone's a quick learner, good attitude, gets I mean like do you know how rare it is to find someone that actually wants to be better every day?
Yeah, I wish it was not a rarity, but it is something that's innate in us and it's innate in me. But it's innate in most of the people that work at Morton too, is they want to be better every day. They want to contribute to their colleagues, to their clients. They're interested in that. And I think that that's the starting point. When somebody doesn't want to be better every day, you can see it disrupt the culture and actually like decrease the value of what you're bringing to the table.
The issue is, I believe, there's not a lot of impetus on part of management in this industry to train people.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for someone they can plug in.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the skills are that hard to teach, But there's, I think, a lack of interest on the part of management of actually bringing people up to the speed and having the patience to do that. Do you agree?
I think I agree. And I think going forward, it's going to become even more and more of a problem because one of the things that I've noticed even within our workforce, and maybe just for context for people listening, we manage about 3 billion, have around 60 employees. And so we've been able to grow significantly. I started 11 years ago and we had 18. So we've definitely like developed along from mom and pop to institutional. And one of the things that I've noticed is that it's becoming easier to get the knowledge. It's harder to have the skills. So what I mean by that is you can take CFP courses and you can pass the CFP exam, but that doesn't mean that you know how to give financial planning advice because financial planning advice is not something that a textbook can just teach you. You have to learn it from experience, from mentorship, from apprenticeship. You have to learn it from direct training. You have to practice your storytelling and you have to have in your back pocket analogies and ways to either like make financial advice easier to digest, or you have to know when to go up in complexity and when to come back down in like making it common language for people. That skill, the skill of financial planning, understanding facial expressions and body language, looking at your clients and seeing it, being able to acknowledge, do they understand, do they not understand? Is there a fear that they haven't addressed? Have they told us an issue, but do we need to dig deeper to go to the real issue behind the issue? That's when I talk about skills. So I think that going forward, uh, those skills are going to need to be trained. I think all firms are going to need training programs or at least some type of structure where there's a dedication to that skill set because I heard this at a conference one day, but if you don't practice on each other, you practice on your clients. And I think that we need as an industry to have more opportunities where we teach people to practice on each other so that when we're in front of our clients, we truly are giving the best advice that we can.
Has this always worked as well as it sounds like it has?
Oh, it's hard. Like this is not like an easy thing to do. It's very vulnerable. So even for some of our team members now, the idea of recording themselves on video talking about something is like, oh, like it makes them like shrink inside. The idea of practicing in front of their colleague and being embarrassed if they don't have it right is like, it just gets you like all nervous. In some ways, we've kind of changed the language. So instead of it being role playing, we call it flight simulation because most people have seen like the newest Top Gun movie where they like are doing flight simulation before they actually go and do the mission that they're on. I think that we have to even change the mindset and reframe for our team members of like the importance of flight simulation because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't communicate it well, it's not going to matter. And so the importance of flight simulating before you're sitting in front of the client is just vital to the success of the relationship. And then if we even are backing into growth and something that I think isn't really important to most firms right now, I think growth comes in multiple ways. You have to grow your revenue, but you also have to grow the skill sets of your people. You have to grow the number of clients that want to work with you. You have to grow your client referrals. All of these things are going to come from a positive experience. And that positive experience can only be made possible if the training program is good. And as we see different generations come up in our firms, there's some things that we have to be paying attention to, like social media, I think, has made people less confident as a whole. I think there's more vulnerability and there's less, there's like a little bit more intimidation to like just try and potentially fail and then learn from that failure and grow. Like that, I think that there's something there that firm owners have to be, I think, conscientious of and aware. So even as leaders, redefining what we do as leaders, which I think oftentimes our role is just to build confidence and competence. And so what does that look like in a training program? I think you could, if you are dedicated to this can go really well, but it's time, right? Sometimes it's dedicating 2 hours a month to one of your team members where you have them come and practice on you for an hour and then they come back 2 weeks later with the notes and they do it even better the next time. So I think where it becomes complicated for leaders is that they have to pre-plan their calendar. They have to put these times in. They have to be thoughtful to homework that they're giving team members. They need them to show up prepared. They need to help be an accountability figure for the next step. And oftentimes that's really intimidating to firm founders and leaders to like actually have that type of structure put in place. But when it's put in place, it works well.
Well, I think it can be intimidating for some kinds of leaders, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're the kind of leader that doesn't want to have it all resting on you and wants to empower the team and give them skills, I could see how that would
Yeah.
be fascinating and inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think if you're willing to put the time in and you want that outcome, you want to have a team that's in many ways going to be better than you in the next 5 to 10 years, then setting up these structures and being disciplined about it, I think that's the way to success. And look, it's short term versus long term. In the short term, will it be like a hindrance on your calendar to spend those extra few hours a month with different team members, mentoring them and coaching them? Maybe. Long term, will it create a more resilient firm that has more expertise across the board and isn't overly dependent upon you? Absolutely. Right. And so I think you have to kind of, just like how we with clients teach them to look at long term versus short term, as leaders, we also need to make sure that we're looking at the long term versus just the short term.
Yeah, but there's this whole control aspect too,
Yeah.
because a lot of these financial services CEOs, like these financial advisor CEOs, and the role of the CEO is so different from the role of the advisor, right? But they
Mm-hmm.
came up into success being that one person shop. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I see people making changes to their website. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
marketing person, and I sometimes I have to wrangle. I'm like, I'm the one that should write the blog. Like, you give me the key points and I'll write it. I don't want to see you uploading it to the
Mm-hmm.
website,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's at most $125 an hour work. You should be doing $1,000 an hour work. You should be out
Yeah.
there like, what is the future of Social Security and how do I position my firm? How do I
Yeah.
make sure everybody at this company has grown in their skills 500% and in their pay 500% over the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know what the competition is doing? Should I be using AI with my clients? How can I make clients happier? That's $1,000 an hour stuff, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How can I solve the biggest problems that my clients have, not like the biggest problem that my marketing person has? I can't log on to Twitter, right? Like, I'm sick of getting these emails. Financial
Yeah.
advisors, if you're listening to this, get out of first gear. This is what Stacey's telling you. It's possible, it could work, but you have to be a little bit open.
Yeah, on the marketing side, I've presented at a few conferences and I use this analogy, which I think you'll appreciate, that like sometimes what happens with firms today, especially because I think a lot of firms don't understand the role marketing plays in their organizations, is that they're kind of like they should play the role of contractor when building a house, but they shouldn't play the role of designer when building the house. And when you have like people who don't necessarily have that skill set playing that role, oftentimes is what you get just conflict across the board, whether it's through people that you hire to help you with a role or if it's internal marketing teams. And so even in our organization, there's a few other leaders in the company where I'm like, I'm the CMO, so I play designer and you're the contractor, so you play contractor, and we are going to do our jobs beautifully, but we are going to define what we're really good at, and that is what we're going to spend our time on. Because the saying, don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none, is like a very, very, very true saying. And so I agree with you. It's important to even back up. And as a founder of an organization, ask yourself the question, like, what's the highest value I can add? And where am I actually not skilled in a certain area where I really need to bring in a partner to make it truly excellent in my firm?
I can see where it comes from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can see where the behavior and the habits and the mindset comes from.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people in this industry started out at, it was Dean Witter,
Yeah.
right? Making
Hmm.
cold calls. And I feel like that generation is kind of fading out.
It's not one to one like it used to be. So it used to be a founder has this great firm, 5 to 10 employees, and they say, who's my one succession plan? And that happened at Morton. Even our CEO and CIO were Lon Morton's succession plan. And he said, you're the people that are going to take over the business and the company. And we only had 15 people at the time. And so it made sense for a one-to-one transition. I think as firms grow and evolve and get bigger, it's probably going to be like the founder transitioning to 2 or 3 people. Maybe one person that's going to take over their clients and take really good care of the clients, another person who's going to run the business and ensure that it's profitable and that it continues to grow. And maybe another person that's going to run the services or the client services and advisory. I think that I understand where it comes from, but I also think that like the evolution of this industry means that founders have to think about enterprises, like building an enterprise sooner.
If you could talk about this, what's something that did not work out as well as you wanted it to?
I think that when we grew from 18 to 60 people, we neglected to acknowledge how hard that would be culturally. When you go from an environment where you know everybody's spouse's name and their pet's name and what they did that weekend, and you have like fluid conversations all the time in this really friendly, homey environment, to now you've hired directors, you've hired managers, you've hired leaders that are in between you and the people every day. I think that that's caused a lot of cultural challenges for us. And a lot of it came because I think we didn't have great leadership training program. We hadn't put a lot of energy and effort on defining like who is a leader, who is a manager, what do they need to be developed in, both in like how do you lead a department and set goals and objectives for that department, but then how do you lead people? And I talked about this on a podcast that is going to come out in a little bit, but I'll share it with you too. I was kind of thinking through manager avatars. So generally speaking, I think there's 3 different manager avatars that tend to pop up in an organization. If they're not trained well, there's like downsides. So one of the avatars is the nice manager. And the nice manager is the person that like feels like a warm hug. They'd make you a meal if you needed one. They like kind of say yes to everything because they just want you to feel warm and fuzzy inside. But the downside of the nice manager is that long term, they don't give you feedback that's critical for your growth and development. They tend to maybe kind of skate around real issues that are occurring. They tend to not hold you accountable to the things that you want. So you stagnate in growth and you don't actually get the like true push that you would get from a coach that supported you more. The second avatar is the technical specialist that becomes a manager because they're good at their job, but it's really hard for them then to teach other people to be good at their job. They tend to default to like just do what I did and you'll be great versus actually looking at the individual and the human and saying like where are your skills and opportunities and how do I develop you in that way. And so in that manager role, sometimes those people stagnate too because they never actually get the coaching. That manager's too reliant on them observing them versus like actually coaching them to get better in their unique skill set. And then the last manager, which I think is a dangerous one, is the narcissistic manager, the one who tells their team like, oh, I'm going to protect you from leadership, but then goes to leadership and then complains about their team. They kind of play this like both sides middleman that is very dangerous for a culture because it can cause a lot of dissension towards leadership. If the manager is saying that they need to be protected, people start thinking they need to be protected. And so one of the things that we acknowledged is that we didn't have a good leadership training program. A lot of our managers kind of fell in these 3 categories. So over the last few years, we've really put a lot of energy and effort into developing good leaders and good managers. And most managers start out as one of those 3. And so the question becomes not, is that good or bad? It's what do you need to train and develop in those people so that they can effectively lead the people under their charge? And so that's something that we have not historically done well. It really damaged our culture for a period of time, but I think that we've recovered from it well, which has been very fulfilling inside of our company.
So I run this transparency group, and it consists mostly of flat fee hourly and advice only planners.
Mm-hmm.
But we had somebody come and talk that was the head of an RIA firm that had a lot of these different types of advisors, some AUM, everyone's fiduciary fee only, but he was doing the most interesting thing. His name's Guy Penn. Do you know Guy Penn?
I don't.
Okay. Well, anyways, I'm probably going to have him on the show at some point, but Stacy, he was amazing because he started up this kind of like, I think he called it, what did he call it? He called it green market RIA firm or community RIA. That's what he called it.
Yeah.
But he said this interesting thing. He said when he hired people or took RIA firms in, it wasn't based on their numbers or their profitability. And he said anytime he had someone come in and the first word out of their mouth was, "What's the payout?" He just was like, ding, like he just knew.
Mhm.
But he said he thought of this. This was remarkable, Stacy. He said to himself, would I allow this person to babysit my kids?
Yeah.
Would I want to sit next to this person on a plane for like a long plane ride?
Yeah.
And this whole conversation we're having, Stacy, is really about people, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
not really, I mean, it is about processes and it is about productivity and operations and all the things that you're discussing and training programs, right? But at the end of the day, I think that we don't know each other well enough. That there's not a lot of knowledge of who we're actually hiring in. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of knowledge of who the clients are that we're bringing in. And it starts with this whole kind of numbers driven approach. Now, it's not to say that there's something wrong with having a numbers base, because I also don't agree, and I see this all the time with these people who set out with no actual tangible, concrete, numerical
Mhm.
goals. And the mathematics have to work too,
Mhm.
right?
You can balance both of the like the qualitative and quantitative. It's a balance of both. And if you do too much quantitative, then you miss the qualitative aspects that I think sometimes make an even bigger impact within the organization.
Well, see, and it just brings to mind, if I could pull up your website here, if that's okay,
Yeah.
everybody who's on the podcast,
Mhm.
make sure you watch this on YouTube. What's atypical is over here on the right, she has, I'm looking for a new advisor. I'm curious about alternatives. Like, who does this? I just want to ask everybody, who has the word I am or I'm on the website? It's never like that. It's always about us. We are fiduciaries with 20 years of experience,
Yeah.
and we manage money for tech executives in the San Diego area. Like, but over here, this is like, see, this is personal. It's
Mhm.
speaking directly to the person. And I think that's really what you're getting at.
Yeah, I think there's something about this where we have to be thoughtful to the outcome of our clients. So there's a great book called How to Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller that I used as inspiration for the website when we designed it. And in this book, he talks about how most people don't start with the end in mind. So the end in mind is, how do we help our clients either achieve success or avoid failure? And so if you define for yourself the ways that you're helping our clients achieve success or avoid failure, and then you back into their experience. So if you think about yourself going to any website, you're going to the website because you want something from that website. Sometimes it's knowledge, and we have that in our website as well. But generally speaking, you have a problem and you're going to the website to solve the problem. In the Story Brand book, he talks about how oftentimes, like any business, but I think in this case, financial advisors, they make the mistake of making themselves the hero of the story. So their websites are, I'm the hero, I'm the smartest person in the room, come to me. When really we shouldn't be framing ourselves as the hero of the story. We should acknowledge that the person looking at our website is the hero of the story. The person looking at our website is either going to achieve success or avoid failure. They're the ones with the goals and objectives and the things that they need our help with. We are actually just the person that helps them get there. And so even acknowledging that when you're building your marketing materials and saying, how do I position myself as like the sidekick, the right hand man, woman, other? Like, I think we have to kind of think about ourselves that way when we're marketing. And as the generations are changing, and there's a lot of data and research on this, more and more people are not looking for someone years of experience and credentials. More and more people are looking for somebody who sees them and will meet them where they're at. And so that's kind of how we design the website, with this idea that we're not the hero of the story, our clients are the hero of the story. And so how do we take them through a journey on the website that helps them to feel seen and like we would know them if they worked with us?
I mean, the retirement roadmap PDF download gets old, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and everyone's retirement looks different. And I have this problem with Google advice or social advice too sometimes, where it's like a one size fits all, and it's just not, like, life is not a one size fits all. There's a million different decisions that we need to make. And Sometimes maxing out your 401k is the right decision. Sometimes it's not the right decision. And there's too many pieces of materials out there that says like this is the way. And I think we as an industry should acknowledge that there generally speaking is not one way. There's a lot of ways that you can do it. And it really comes down to like an advisor truly knowing who you are. And back to what we started this episode on is like that advisor having the skills, not just the knowledge, to ask the right questions, to truly understand what you want your life to look like. And then not just giving you the textbook financial planning advice, but giving you advice that leads to those things. And I think that we haven't quite as an industry developed that skill set. But I know we added behavioral finance to the CFP, which is nice. But I think there's another aspect of this, which is more financial therapy training that could be very helpful going forward and like truly making sure that we as a industry know how to like sit in the client's shoes and see from their vantage point what advice they need, not just what our knowledge set would give as advice.
Well, I mean, I wonder how many financial plans are actually being followed.
Yeah. There's some not, but there's also like if they're not being followed, why? And potentially it's that the client doesn't have buy-in because it doesn't match their values and their goals. Because it's a financial plan that we did according to the CFP guidelines, but not necessarily one that speaks to them and the things they want in life. There's this dynamic that we talk about a lot in our business called current me versus future me. And we're seeing a lot in our younger clients. So current me would like to go on vacation and make memories with my family. We call that deposits in the memory bank versus the bank account, which is future me. Future me is like, hey, I gotta retire one day and I need to be taken care of then too. I think a lot of traditional financial planning advice focuses too much on future me and not enough on current me, which makes financial plans less digestible. It makes them feel like they're giving up something versus getting something. And so even the language we use with our clients, where we don't make them fill out a budget worksheet, we make them fill out a spending strategy. It's a little bit more of like proactive, I'm in charge of my life. And I think that it's very helpful to get adoption to financial planning and building out a financial plan because we're speaking to the things that matter the most to them. And I think in today's age, we can't ignore the needs of current me. If you have all this money at the end, but then didn't enjoy your life along the way, I don't think that's resonating with the next generation. And so this is something that I think even as advisors that are thinking about training and development and service offerings, helping people to understand the current me versus future me dynamic and catering our financial planning to it. It's been very powerful for us. And I think that that may be the way that the industry is going to head to.
Well, thanks for being here.
This was great. I enjoyed the conversation very much.
All right, everybody. So thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next one. And please rate, subscribe, and review the show.